Palia, a new MMO just revealed with its first trailer a few days ago. Yeah, a new Western MMO, which is a bit unheard of these days. This one comes from former Riot and Blizzard devs and aims to be something entirely new to the genre. A community-focused sim game that just so happens to also be massively multiplayer, where we're going to be building up a home and a life, working with others to experience an apparent ever-evolving narrative. That is pretty unusual for an MMO, since it doesn't have action combat, PvP, or your usual raiding content we'd see in a generic MMO, while visually it looks very pretty with a bright and colourful aesthetic and a world to explore where we have vertical elements since we have gliders. Let's take a look at a couple clips of the trailer just to give you the vibe of what we're talking about.
Ooh.
Yeah, seems very unusual for an MMO, right? Very different. And I'm glad to see not only a new Western MMO, but one that's gonna try something new. The MMO genre has been pretty stagnant lately. I think something new is a good thing. But what is this game? What do we know about it? The trailer doesn't tell us all that much. Many people on the official trailer on YouTube are wondering in the comments, is this basically The Sims but an MMO? Or maybe is it like a Harvest Moon or Animal Crossing style of game? After that trailer left me wondering, I looked into it a bit and I have some answers. So welcome back to Rage Gaming, my name is Olo and let's talk about Palia. This extra information comes from a press event that was quietly undertaken to showcase the game and provide details to various media outlets so they could share them. The general reaction from that event was very positive from the articles that I've read about it. Palia is in development by Singularity 6, which is a roughly 50-person studio made up from former Riot and Blizzard devs and others. That's a respectably sized group, and also something we're hearing more of lately as more people leave these big corporations and then go on to create their own take on what games can be instead of maybe what the status quo is at this point. Palia was described as a community simulation game that is also massively multiplayer, confirming it as, yeah, an MMO, but with a very different take on what that means. It's a 3D multiplayer world where players are meant to live out a fantasy life through massive character customization and fashion, with in-depth crafting systems like cooking, fishing, and farming, the ability to traverse the world with climbing and gliding, and obviously, as shown in the trailer, an incredibly in-depth housing system. Apparently at launch, it's going to have over 1,000 decoration items to build and customize your own home however you want. It features a community storyline that is set to take place over multiple years, which is quite bold, a story that requires the community maybe to achieve certain things, and it'll take place over a really long period, obviously. The guild system that you might expect in other games is here, but here it's called neighborhoods. So I assume instead of buying a generic guild hall and then putting things in it and then expanding it, like you might see in other MMO housing systems, here it seems like you'd literally build a town together and around each other, forming your own neighborhood physically as a community, which is very clever in its social design. So rather than the social elements being put on the back burner around standard RPG elements like in your usual MMO, where combat and character power progression are sort of the focus, here the social elements are the main element of the game. They describe the world as high fantasy with robust multiplayer features in a third-person perspective, which will apparently provide a, quote, layer of depth to the sim genre. Compared to, say, The Sims or Harvest Moon or even Animal Crossing, sure, third-person camera is definitely different, but a new layer of depth seems like a lot of words to say, hey, a different camera angle. Either way, players are meant to decide how they fit into this world, with what they want to do and how they want to play the game. The story is apparently about the world's past, where we're going to be uncovering its history, and it'll take years to unveil that. If it's super drip-fed like that, you gotta wonder how that's gonna work. It certainly doesn't seem like the main focus or selling point of the game, more like something that's just going on in the background over a really long period of time. Now, while the game is super player community focused, there are still NPCs that are in the game, and they're gonna be important. So it's not like a Fallout 76 situation where there's just no NPCs and nothing going on. But as described by the co-founder of the game, they're expecting the players to be a huge part of shaping the game itself and where it goes from its original point. So what do you think about this concept? I think it's gonna be very different to what what players usually expect in an MMO, and that actually will put people off. However, I think there is a massive market for people who love, say, Stardew Valley and more social-focused games. Final Fantasy XIV does have a huge community RP scene, and maybe this could be a merging of a lot of different type of players into this different genre of MMO. Personally, I found myself in love with Animal Crossing when it came out last year. I loved the progression and customization that the game offered, but where it fell short for me was its multiplayer. I could kind of hang around with my friends, maybe look at their islands, see what they've collected, but that was it. It was very quickly done, and that was insane to me. In a game like that, to have no activities to do together, no mini games, nothing to build together in like a proper multiplayer setting, not some shallow gimmick, it just felt like they really missed the mark on the potential of multiplayer in Animal Crossing. This concept, an MMO version of a life sim, could be what I was craving. Now, apparently there's going to be different ways to play the game too. They're quoted to say whether a player is an aspiring chef, a big game hunter, or a bug-catching extraordinaire, it seems like Palia will try to offer a variety of gameplay options that you can do solo, but is with multiplayer in mind. For example, players can meet and befriend or even romance a cast of the NPC characters, and those NPCs will go on to live out their lives and evolve and change as the game goes on. So we can play the game without interacting with other players, I guess, and it's not like it's required to enjoy the game, but it certainly seems like this is leaning towards community play, ideally. But there's a good chunk of information about the game and its concept, certainly a lot more than the trailer tells us anyway. There's still a lot of questions we don't have the answers to yet though. A big one obviously is monetization. We don't know if they're going to do like a one-time buy, a subscription, or what. We just know that it will be a live service game since it is an MMO. But what's incredible news and a huge relief is that the game is already fully funded. So there's no community support that's going to be needed to make this happen. It's not like a nice idea that could happen. It just is happening. It's already in development. It doesn't need crowdfunding. Also, the combat of the game wasn't shown. It wasn't explained. While there is combat, apparently it's optional, and of course there's no PvP. They say the game's not meant to be high in combat pressure, so you don't need to worry about death. So I imagine whatever combat system with that will be low pressure, so maybe not the most involved thing. That reference to big game hunter means I assume you'll be hunting wildlife, maybe in a more mini game setting than action hotbars and abilities. Finally, you can register for the pre-alpha on the official website right now if you're interested and want a chance to play soon. At this time, there's no launch date set for the MMO, but the pre-alpha is set to begin this summer, so it's near a playable state. Overall, I'm pretty interested in Palia, and I'm really glad to see devs try something new in this genre, which I feel like has been drying up somewhat. I do love MMOs, and social aspects are definitely something that's less relevant these days in these games. So I think there's a lot to be said about games like World of Warcraft with the recent classic versions of vanilla TBC, which do require players to interact a lot more, and obviously are very popular for that reason. So it'll be good to see what they do try with this one, and I'm definitely looking forward to hearing more about it. Let me know what you think about it though, guys. I'm interested to read the comments on this one. Were you even aware of this game before I talked about it in this video? But until next time, I've been Hollow, you've been you, and thanks for watching.
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.